Despite being over 5 years old now, Cyberpunk 2077 is as popular as ever, and still holds hundreds of secrets and details to be discovered. From hidden Easter eggs and references, awesome secret loots, and things you didn't know you could do, I present to you, my tunes, yet another 25 hidden free gifts in Cyberpunk 2077, Part 4, and a very Merry Christmas from 2025. Now, let's get to it. First up, if we head far into the Badlands to the northwest of the desert film set, a place where we can also pick up a free Thornton Colby Butte truck, so there's a little bonus if you didn't know about that one. But driving out here into the desert, you won't see it until you get quite close. But there's a little campfire with about 5 people dancing around it. A fairly common sight, even way out here, but this one is particularly odd. See, about 20 seconds after reaching this campsite, a sandstorm will blow in and everyone here will drop dead. Even more bizarrely, our own player camera will be tilted backwards temporarily. So clearly this is a deliberate scripted event, with the only explanation to all of this being a shard left down on the floor titled The Final Discovery of Louis Torres. It has potentially world-shattering implications, so let's give it a quick read. A year has passed since we last heard from Luis Fernando Gonzalo Torres, the bold traveler seeking to unravel the secrets of a mysterious syncretic cult. Torres first stumbled upon traces of the sect while in Yugoslavia, where he discovered the remains of a fascinating mural depicting dancers of a forgotten culture. However, the scientific community dismissed his finding as a cheap fake, and quickly snuffed out any discussion on the subject. One might wonder, why so quickly? Undeterred, Torres continued in his search, which took him to such far-flung places as Mongolia, New Zealand, Peru, and Madagascar, from which he never returned. As he slowly pieced together the cult's international puzzle, he saw it all pointed to a powerful ritual based on trance-like dance, puzzling incantations, and sacred offerings fed to the flames. From his final notes, we learn that he attempted to perform the ceremony. However, his last words give a mysterious warning. Be careful which one you invite to your fire. Now, if you're familiar with the theory of the net being actual, literal hell, then this shard merely adds fuel to that speculation, I think. It very much sounds like Torres, and by extension this lot, were attempting to summon some sort of demon. And we now are a sole surviving witness to their apparent success. The only other Badlands encounter that's ever been this bizarre relates to the FF06B5 mystery. So perhaps, somehow, this could tie in with that whole mosaic, with otherworldly entities and all that. Perhaps there really is a pantheon of deities out there, with the veil dividing them from this world being far thinner than we might think. Speaking of veils dividing worlds though, it's time to talk about today's very special video sponsor Vitcher, and their limited edition Luma Cyber XR glasses. If you've ever wanted to feel like you're playing Cyberpunk through a Braindance, then this is probably the best way to experience that. They're made in direct collaboration with CD Projekt Red and are limited to just 10,000 Cyberpunk branded copies, each with its own unique number. Naturally, 2077 was taken, but I got what I think to be the next best Cyberpunk number of 2023, which has a little label thing here and is also printed on the glasses themselves. So a bit about the glasses. 2 micro OLED panels, 120Hz refresh rate, this awesome light stripe effect on the back of the temple with customizable colors, 3D mode, which is optional but very cool, it kind of makes everything pop, all-round amazing color fidelity, very vibrant, very cyberpunk, and compatible with pretty much any console or PC. Switch 2 is an especially good pairing due to that one's portability, allowing you to play Cyberpunk on what looks like a giant screen literally anywhere. It's also a great portable workstation. In that sense, you can project up to 3 additional virtual screens for an awesome multi-monitor setup, and it's a great Christmas gift to buy for yourself. So check it out via the link down below, and now let's return to Night City, which is starting to feel closer than ever before. Next, whilst a vending machine or SCSM called Brendan might be labelled as the nicest guy in Night City, you may be less aware about a vending machine that's actually evil. If you head down to the Ring Road fast travel point in City Centre, and you'll want to make sure your game is saved if that's not happening automatically, especially if you're a lower level, because turning around and dropping down to this row of 4 Chromanticore SCSMs, one poor guy will be having a very bad day.
No.
forget stray bullets, vending machines are now taking people out in Night City as well. Fortunately for us, the guy's cash is now sitting in the dispense tray, which, if we grab, will reward us with another bundle, then another, and so on. But fair warning, in my playthrough, after taking the 6th wad of cash, the vending machine punished my greed with great pain. Now, this can actually straight up kill you if you are a lower level, but all the same, it is an awesome little hidden interaction for you to go and find. Down into the southern central Badlands now, between the Medeski fuel station and Sunset Motel, right down from a pylon, we can find a perhaps familiar sight and a story of revenge, where a man has been buried alive whilst somebody seemingly sat and watched for a good long while, being sure to capture the whole thing on film. Reading the nearby shot, we can learn that this man was a prisoner who years ago murdered the parents of Kevin and Dwight Blair, yet has now recently been released. In this conversation, it's clear that Dwight is not willing to permit that, whilst Kevin just wants to move on with their lives and be happy, refusing to take part in this revenge scheme that Dwight has cooked up, where he plans to make this guy feel what they felt, recording every ounce of pain before sending it on to the guy's family. And that's exactly what he does, sitting, eating, and watching. There's also a baton here, so no doubt some beating was also involved, and it looks as though when this guy got hungry, Dwight would place meals directly in front of his face as another means of taunting. And then, presumably, eventually, Dwight got up and left, now also a murderer just like the man that he killed. Now, it's not for me to say whether Dwight did the right thing here, though I imagine out of him and Kevin is going to be the happier one of the two, not utterly consumed by rage. But story aside, if you've ever played Far Cry 3, or even just seen promotional material for it, it's pretty clear that this is also a cool nod to that game. So right around that area still, taking the road just south of the Medeski fuel station this time, just past the pylon on the left, will be a blue loot container. One of literally thousands out here, but one that remains yet sealed. You will need 20 body to crack it open, but you can get away with just 14 if you equip the Gorilla Arms Cyberware. Inside are a bunch of legendary item components and various other bits from Militech, all originally en route from Night City to Phoenix, but hacked out of the sky by an unknown netrunner, who then for some reason didn't go and collect their prize. Maybe it was bad, as in the netrunner bad, not bad loot, whom I've done a full video investigation into in the past. But regardless, we now get to find and enjoy this loot instead. Over in Kabuki, closest to the Creek Loop fast travel, if you then come around to the western side and drop into this pool of water, there'll be a crashed Thornton Galena, with a guy, sadly inside, who was drunkenly driving home. He'd won what he thought to be a very expensive cat, and reckoned it was going to make him and his girlfriend very rich. The cat, thankfully, is still fine, just sat purring up here at the edge of the water. But hidden, though this encounter may already be, what I actually want to show you around here is one just beyond it. Heading over the car and up this sewer path to the outlets at the top, there'll be a bright orange Kangtao affiliated robot, and provided you're a V with a high enough tech skill, you can actually repair and activate it. Unlike most, this robot doesn't try to kill us, it actually just wants to innocently dance. Could be a Chappie reference, though I'm likely more leaning towards that thanks to the robot's appearance than anything else, but definitely something worth finding once you have a high enough tech ability. Continuing our theme of potential references, here's one that's definitely more cut and dry. During the heist, if you stop by the bar in Compeki Plaza, there's a number of interesting characters you can see. Bartolomeo Mordellini, who hosts wild boat parties out in the marina, Hajime Taki, the Arasaka representative who we were supposed to meet according to our cover story, and then there's this guy, Hideyoshi Oshima, discussing how brain dances need to start transcending beyond stereotypical genre tropes, becoming much more complex by their nature. Now, this is a fourth wall break that just works. The name, the likeness, the fact it's him talking, conveying his real-world visions for the game industry, yeah. CDPR basically created Hideo Kojima a character in Cyberpunk 2077 as close as possible to his real-life counterparts. In fact, V can even fangirl out a bit at him.
Hey, 僕の作品知ってるの?
Metal Gear Solid, Death Stranding, of course, bro. In fact, that second title brings us on to the next thing. During the hunt, where we break into the NCPD lab to help River, making sure to search all the rooms, one will contain a very obvious Death Stranding reference in the form of a bridge baby, a 7-month-old fetus surgically removed from a brain-dead mother. Kept in an incubation chamber meant to simulate the conditions of a womb, the baby, born from something dead, is designed to facilitate a connection to the world of the dead, allowing any operative that's carrying one to detect beached things, souls that remain trapped in the world of the living. And scanning this BB in Cyberpunk, the description confirms that it's designed for the exact same purpose. So does that mean that there's beached things in this world as well? Well, no. It's probably just more a nod of respect from the CDPR devs. After all, they also got Hideo Kojima in the game, so this is just icing on top of that. But then again, we did just earlier see a Campfire group taken out by an unknown entity, so there are still plenty of things in this world that go beyond our understanding. As of 2.3, when Twintone got expanded to cover pretty much all cars, save specifically for Nomad ones, it opened up an even larger world of vehicle customization. Not only can we make our sports cars look however we want, but there's plenty of cool designs now as well for more civilian vehicles. As always, the Marina is going to get you some fancier vehicles to scan for Twintone, but keep an eye out around Night City for a Mahir Supron van with a mystery machine skin. I actually mentioned this in last year's video and said it was a real shame how we couldn't save and use this for ourselves, and now we totally can. So thanks, CDPR. Now, Twintones may not technically constitute free gift entirely. There's a tiny nominal fee to register designs, but the gift of near infinitely customizable vehicles is certainly not to be passed up. So let me know in the comments with this one, what is the best Twintone design that you found in 2077? Another thing that wouldn't become available until 2.3, but is now an awesome feature to check out, is just how customizable characters are now in Photomode. Not only can so many be summoned now, but most of them actually have multiple outfits to cycle. Basically, anything they've worn or will wear across the game can be accessed and seen here. Not only does this provide more freedom for photo ops, but it can be really useful for seeing if you've missed any content. If a character has an outfit that you don't recognize, then it's probably because there's a path they can go down that you just haven't played. For instance, River, in a prison jumpsuit, comes from an end credit message we'll only get if we fail to save Randy, sending River down a dark timeline of events. You also have tons of control with moving character body parts as well now, in addition to the preset poses, which is another thing I didn't quite realize the full extent of for a good long while. Being one of the absolute wealthiest people in Night City, you might expect Kerry Eurodyne's villa to be absolutely stashed with awesome gear to find and, klep for ourselves. But despite Kerry having one of NC's few Arondites locked away on display, his mansion is otherwise lacking in general riches. However, if we come around to the northernmost wall and hop down, we will find something rather special indeed. For me, this was a Militech Apogee Sandevistan, the absolute best in the game, along with some legendary weapons, though admittedly what you get will depend somewhat on the level you are when you come here, but the quality of this loot will always be an excellent boost whatever point you're at in the game, so well worth hopping over here when you finally do make it up to Kerry's. What's even more cool though is that these guys were hired by Gaston Slayton, Kerry's psycho-fan that eventually succeeds in stealing his guitar, which we wind up getting a gig to actually retrieve down in the Glen, showing even more the insane lengths this guy went to obtain a genuine piece of Kerry Eurodyne merch. Over to Dogtown now, down in the slums of Longshore Stacks, right by where we'll start the gig The Man Who Killed Jason Foreman, we can find a robot similar to the Kang Tao one from earlier. This one appears to be Arasaka owned, laying heavily damaged in front of a crashed AV, where some kids are staring at and possibly bullying the poor thing. Well, repairing it. Interestingly, by attempting to upload the robot's profile to the FIA database, it'll finally get up. But unlike our guy back in Kabuki, this robot's only desire isn't to dance, but rather it's revenge. Immediately taking out a gun that it apparently had stashed away and opening fire on those who did it wrong. Along with us, even though we were the only one to help the thing, forcing us to put it down for good, despite the fact that we were the ones to just revive it. Still a cool little encounter to find though, and hey, at least no one's going to be bullying this one anymore. If you've seen Edgerunners, then no doubt you already had an inkling to look for this one. But for anyone new to the game or who still doesn't know about this one by now, one of the absolute best shotguns can be found down in the city centre, underneath the two giant holographic fish. So head south until you're about aligned with the southwestern road intersection on the map. It all looks very similar up here, but the shotgun specifically will be located in a bush behind 3 monks. So 3 kneeling monks is the thing to look out for. Presumably, Guts has just been laying here since 2076, when Rebecca stopped needing it. And it probably packs more punch than any other weapon out there. Combining it with the fortified ankles leg cyberware, we can even perform a charged super jump by firing Guts at the ground a split second after we leap into the air, to get on top of roofs such as Kerry's villa, which are otherwise inaccessible. Very useful, very cool, and free to pick up whenever from Act 2 onwards. On the other hand, one of the more niche shotguns in the game can be acquired for free at the end of Judy's questline. Mox is an easily missable variant of the usually very powerful Carnage, the same shotgun type as Rebecca's Guts, but the two guns couldn't be much further from one another. Mox is a much more reined-in Carnage variant, firing with more predictability and a lot less kickback, despite having a 200% greater chance to knock an enemy down and a 33% chance to shock them. That said, it very much lacks the same power as Guts, and perhaps Judy modifying it in this way is a metaphor for attempting to rein in V's chaotic side, to stop us from diving into danger and keep our head level long enough to actually survive. You can pick this up on the kitchen counter at Judy's apartment sometime after completing Pyramid Song. Just look out for a text from her about a gift, a free gift. If you've played through Phantom Liberty and you chose the side with read option, you'd have ended up deep under Night City in the Cynosure facility. But prior to that turning into a nightmare experience, back in the upper levels, we can learn of the madness that the Blackwall AIs inflicted on the Cynosure Janitor. A guy tasked simply with keeping an eye on the plumbing down here it seems, but who the AIs slowly reached out to through the walls and the water, attempting to configure and piggyback off of him, leading him to declare that he needs to integrate with the system. This guy, called David Yu, seemingly disappeared from this place, but I actually found him in Pacifica up above. Just up the hill and to the right from the Grand Imperial Mall fast travel is a guy with a yellow marker above his head. At least there should be a guy there. This one's been a little hit and miss for me, depending on playthroughs, with little to no rhyme or reason to it. So if you come here and he's not here, then try reloading a different save or just coming back later. Taking the guy down though will then be able to read fragments from an old diary, explaining that eventually the guy left those sewers to escape the voices, which did for a time work. But after ending up on the streets due to being jobless, he began to realize those same voices were also all around him. AIs hiding in amongst the technology of our world, our cyberware, our cars, our traffic lights, waiting for the end of our world and the beginning of theirs. This probably links back to all of those random citizens that sometimes attack us shouting bizarre nonsense. But finally, this guy dreamt of grey, thick snow and the silhouettes of the AIs whom he left back down in those sewers. They were not happy with that, and now he even finds that he misses them and their whispers between the droplets splashing on the floor. Very creepy indeed, and a strong indication that the Blackwall AIs have already pervaded pretty much the whole of human society. If you want more info on that, then check out my video, The AIs You Should Never Bargain With in Cyberpunk 2077. Another thing you absolutely do not want to miss, because it's a pain to return to if you do, is the Iguana Egg found in Yorinobu's penthouse during the heist. Even if V and Jackie do spot and comment on the lizard itself there, the Iguana Egg is very easy to gloss past if you don't know to look for it. So make sure to pick this one up, and you'll also want to place it in the bowl in your apartment right at the start of Act 2. This will give the egg plenty of time to hatch. It takes a number of in-game weeks, and you won't have that much time to enjoy having this pet unless you get the hatching process underway as soon as possible. Nibbles the cat is certainly the easiest of these two pets to have. Luckily, even if you did miss the iguana, you can now at least add it into photo mode as of 2.3. It's one of the many characters you can now select to pose alongside V from the photo mode menu. If you do want to get back into Compeki to obtain the egg properly though, then there's some great videos on how exactly to do that by a guy called Handsome Tez for I think every Cyberpunk update, so I'll link the latest one down below. Here's a little good deed we can do around Night City in the form of a very mini hidden quest down at the very end of the Night City Pier, where a woman named Angie Pakeha Milek will be stood sobbing. And provided we aren't afraid to get our feet wet, diving off the end of the pier will immediately be drawn to a quest marker, highlighting an old key, engraved with the inscription Milek and described as probably a lost family keepsake. Returning it to Angie up above, she'll be incredibly grateful and reward us with 1,000 eddies. I don't think there's any more to it than that. Possibly it's a reference to The Witcher 3. Geralt had to fish a lot more things out of the water than V does, but otherwise, it's just a cool way to be a nice person around Night City. Speaking of water-based references to The Witcher 3, down at the Pacifica Pier, we can find by far the most on-the-nose Witcher 3 water reference, starting down here with the Drowned Man, a guy who was plagued with the obsession of tracking down every cache of smuggled loot around the Night City Bay, all suspended by floating barrels and containing random bits of loot. He'd swam out to sea for literally thousands of these things, and this was the final one. But just before he could tick off this grindy task as fully done for the rest of his life, his body and mind gave in, leaving us to swim out really not too far to that pillar over there and loot the final remaining Night City Smuggler's cache for ourselves. The best thing for me was a legendary piece of clothing with a stat boost, but the real reward here is the Witcher 3 reference, and perhaps the gratitude that, unlike in that game, we don't have to mount up on a boat and do this thousands of times. Genjiroh is probably the best smart pistol in the base game, beaten only by Ogu in Phantom Liberty according to my own ranking. But did you know that it's actually possible to get Genjiroh twice? The main location, of course, is the office of the Arasaka residence, which we'll go to during the Devil Ending, but you can also break into this place and swipe the thing pretty much whenever you want. However, during the parade, after you eliminate the first sniper and take the elevator to the next level, before then climbing a ladder, there'll be a door, and inside that, a cell, gated behind either a high-tech skill or a keypad with the combination 2906. Inside here, we can pick up a second Genjiroh, which can be missed entirely if you don't collect it during this quest. Why would you possibly need two Genjirohs in a game without dual wielding? Well, you could then switch between them instead of reloading so often, but then again, you could have just done this with a different smart pistol to begin with, or different weapon entirely. There's lots to play around with in the game. It's still worth getting though, if you can, just for the sake of it, and if anything, it makes me think of a line from one of my favorite Christmas movies.
How do you happen to have two guns?
Didn't think one would be enough.
3 guesses what that film is in the comments. This next one is a funny little thing you can do at the start of Phantom Liberty if you don't mind having to reload the previous save. When initially breaking into Dogtown via the stadium parking garage, Somi will ask this.
Apologize up front for the query, but I gotta ask. Compeki Plaza heist. Why?
To which V can reply by doing this.
Okay. Too soon, I guess.
I just love that they thought of this and added that line in. Next up is a cautionary tale and a reminder that not everybody has the same luck with their cyberware as V does. It's no secret that the 6th Street and Valentino gangs don't exactly have the best relationship, but what makes things worse is when the two gangs continually prod one another. In this instance, which can be found just south of the Glen apartment in Haywood, a 6th Streeter thought it would be a good idea to piss off and then run from the Valentino gang, scrolling an adrenaline-filled virtue from it. But the guy's leg implant overheated, and when he called a friend for a lift, he didn't realize said friend had his bike in the repair shop. Suffice it to say that the 6th Streeter was caught, and whatever virtue they were scrolling turned probably pretty dark. Goes to show that even with decent cyberware, messing with gangs is not really a good idea unless you're V. And maybe we should show a bit more appreciation for Victor, who I suppose is canonically V's Ripperdoc, and therefore make sure all of V's cyberware doesn't do stuff like this. So remember Dum Dum from the pickup? Well, turns out that branch of Maelstrom are significantly more ambitious than they first appear. Returning to the city centre and heading down to the Militech building on the south side, there'll be a maintenance area locked behind a gate that we can open with 15 tech, inside which is a guard wearing a really awesome pair of techie shoes. Turns out that after first robbing the flathead from Militech, Dum Dum sent his goons back down here for seconds, but to an Arasaka warehouse this time it seems. Using a man on the inside Inside, this team would go in, grab several crates of guns, before flatlining all of the tombs of the guard who let them in the first place. I mean, hey, it's Maelstrom, they don't exactly play nice. All that then remains of the scene is this unfortunate guy, killed so that the gang could get rich. It's no secret that Militech and the Nomads don't exactly have what you would call a good relationship. The corporation tasked with keeping law and order in the Badlands does not like dealing with a group that don't conform to standard societal norms. The Nomads rob and pester the corps, and in return the corps commit atrocities and sometimes even genocide against them. But this tale of revenge turns that around. To the south of Rocky Ridge, just east of Dakota's place, is a burned out Militech vehicle, a huge pit, shovels, and 2 dead Militech soldiers. This private and corporal were tasked with transporting a bogged out Nomad, but instead decided to drive out into the desert and unofficially execute him. First getting him to dig this big hole for what originally would have been his grave. Clearly, the Nomad overpowered and turned the tables on the two though, leaving behind them and a nice Crusher shotgun. Merely adding to the string of Militech atrocities, down in the southern Badlands, just east up the hill from the first solar array, will be a tunnel bored into the hillside. Militech crates containing a bunch of useful loot, but no sign of a workforce. These guys had been tasked with digging a new underground route for Militech to more easily move merchandise across the border, or perhaps someone inside Militech who wanted to do so without requiring official documentation. But when the two workers expressed concerns about the tunnel collapsing without installing the right supports, they were merely accused of having a bad attitude that could be lowering team morale. So when threatened that their jobs would be lost to a team of Nomads, the workers simply got on with it and, well, it cost them their lives. No doubt the Militech higher-ups then simply abandoned the project and took no accountability for anything that happened here. You might have seen these night city centers for behavioral health dotted about city center. They're basically greenhouse parks where corpos can come on their very rare breaks, listen to recordings of birdsong because birds themselves are still outlawed in Night City, and all round just relax and feel a little more in nature. That is, most people can do that, but just east from the Metro Alexander Street Metro, following this white line then the yellow one, there'll be a guy upstairs in this building who didn't have a relaxing day at all. Jonah Greenfield was on a break when the company he worked for decided to terminate his contract and deactivate all company-issued cyberware. Seemingly, this included a pair of synth lungs because immediately Jonah lost the ability to breathe. This text conversation took place between the bench and here, time enough for Jonah to realize why he couldn't breathe and that he could do literally nothing about it. He'd served his company for however long he had, and once he'd fulfilled his use, they, I guess, knowingly killed him. Odds are as well that the company themselves would have insisted he install said synth-lung cyberware to begin with, a prospect we've seen before in one of the Cyberpunk TV shows. That brings us to our final hidden thing in this game, or rather an aspect to it with so much depth. I don't think most players fully understand the sheer magnitude of lore that could be uncovered by watching the Cyberpunk in-game TV shows. We've got Ziggy Q, the talk show host, who interviews a bunch of citizens and celebrities, including a guy who was forced to remove his arms to keep his manual labor job, only to be left armless when the company shut down. There's also the terrible investment advice of Josh Kevorkian, the humorous takes of Ruth Zhang, Militech-sponsored news from Jillian Jordan and Arasaka-sponsored from Arif Iqbal, and a lot more. My personal favourite, though, is the children's cartoon Safe and Sound, where two dogs explain what an average citizen should do in various dangerous situations. All of these TV segments can be watched intermittently throughout the game between all the ads, and they generally look like background noise. But actually, sitting down to watch them sequentially can shed a ton more knowledge on the wider game lore of this world. Where is the best place to do that? Well, in the process of sifting through it all myself, I inadvertently ended up making compilations of every TV show, which you can find in a playlist on my second channel, linked down below. So, if more raw cyberpunk lore is what you're after, then check that out next. Otherwise, I have a huge backlog of lore, secrets, and rankings on this channel for you all to enjoy. Massive thank you to all the patrons and channel members, as always, for supporting me and making ever more content on the games you love. Cheers for watching this year's Cyberpunk Hidden Free Gifts. I'm Sam Bram, and have yourself a Nova little Christmas. Jooms.